All right, kids, time for presents!
At a children's birthday celebration, a young girl named Faith received a birthday present from her Aunt Gabby, a kite. While they were flying the kite, something astonishing occurred. Faith was suddenly caught by a strong gust of wind and was lifted high into the sky.
My niece is flying through the sky. We were flying a kite and she just took off.
Gabby, terrified, quickly dialed 911 for help, and dispatcher Cammie answered the call, coordinating the rescue operation. At first, Cammie advised using a bed sheet as an improvised net to catch Faith, but the fierce wind blew the sheet away. She then swiftly instructed the adults at the scene to link arms and form a human net, and together they successfully caught Faith safely as she came down to the ground. It had been a lively country music festival until fierce winds suddenly began to howl. The crowd had no idea that a disaster was silently closing in along with the music. First, the rain tarp was torn away by the wind. Then, the stage trusses began shaking violently.
Everybody back, get back!
Within seconds, the entire stage collapsed and the situation only worsened. A massive tornado was barreling directly toward the venue.
Oh, the stage just blew over on Kane Brown.
After receiving the emergency call, Station 113 of the fire department rushed to the location. The area was already in total chaos. Ferocious winds and pounding rain lashed from every direction. Backup had not yet arrived, but the tornado was already less than 2 miles away. The band's lead singer, Kane Brown, managed to get to safety, but others were still trapped beneath the fallen trusses. It was unclear how many victims remained pinned down. Rescue operations couldn't begin until the entire collapsed stage was cleared. For the time being, they had to rely on manual winches and pulley systems. By the time the rescue teams arrived, the tornado was less than 10 minutes out. Citywide alarms blared. Everyone was ordered to take shelter indoors. However, one little girl's father had collapsed on the ground, unconscious. On-site assessment revealed clear signs of tachycardia. When his shirt was cut open, they noticed his neck veins were dangerously swollen, a sign that blood couldn't flow properly back to the heart. His lungs struggled to re-inflate, and immediate decompression was necessary. Every second mattered. The tornado was visibly expanding. As soon as the air was released, the man's veins returned to normal. Moments later, he regained consciousness. Using thermal imaging, rescuers located 8 victims trapped beneath the debris. But the pulleys couldn't handle the enormous weight. The motor overheated and burned out. The truss crashed back down again. Without a crane, the rescue seemed nearly impossible. From beneath the wreckage came desperate screams. The tornado was now only 5 minutes away. Dispatcher Cammie from 911 advised immediate evacuation. But what about those still trapped? The only option left was to lift the truss by hand. Hearing the command, all firefighters gathered together. Time equaled life. Every person rescued could mean one less tragedy. The captain shouted,
1, 2, lift!
The crew strained with every ounce of strength, but the heavy truss didn't budge. Seeing this, Kane Brown shouted to the crowd taking shelter, urging everyone to come and help. Despite the freezing rain, men, women, and children all ran out to assist in the rescue. In moments like that, only unity could overcome despair. Miraculously, they managed to lift the truss just enough to create a small gap. The captain quickly ordered the firefighters to pull the victims out one by one. Then came a warning from the dispatcher. The tornado was almost overhead. The captain instructed civilians to retreat into the shelter while the firefighters continued searching. Finally, they heard the final victim calling for help. A pyrotechnician named Manny. Stranded atop the scaffold, the tornado was nearly there. Time was running out fast. As the firefighters climbed the ladder, a massive black whirlwind surged toward them with terrifying force. A tech billionaire named Trip Hauser was kayaking at sea while attending a company board meeting through a video call. Suddenly, he was swallowed by a whale. Everyone in the meeting froze, utterly shocked and speechless. No one knew whether to feel horrified or amazed. All they could do was call 911. Fortunately, the whale that swallowed Trip was a humpback whale, a filter-feeding mammal with no teeth and a very small throat. It couldn't possibly swallow an adult man, so it merely held Trip in its mouth temporarily. Luckily, Trip had a satellite phone with him while kayaking, allowing firefighters to maintain contact with him. However, there wasn't much they could do, except instruct him to slow his breathing and conserve oxygen. They tracked the whale's location through the phone signal. The real challenge was figuring out how to get him out. Buck mentioned he'd once seen a documentary about whales and recalled that after surfacing, humpback whales often spit out anything indigestible. However, they could remain underwater for up to 45 minutes, and in Tripp's condition, he might not last even 10. The only solution was to force the whale to surface. Interim Captain Chim devised a plan. Since whales are extremely sensitive to sound, they could use noise to drive it upward. As for transmitting the sound underwater, Chim had an idea. They took a parking cone, placed it over the fire truck siren, connected it to a gated Y valve, and attached a fire hose. At Chim's command, Ravi opened the valve and Eddie hit the siren. The deafening sound quickly reached the whale's sensitive ears. Meanwhile, Tripp's condition worsened. With oxygen nearly gone, he began to lose consciousness. Luckily, Chim's plan succeeded. Disturbed by the sound, the humpback whale surfaced and spat out the foreign object in its mouth. Without hesitation, Eddie dove into the sea and Tripp was finally rescued. After a round of CPR, Tripp regained consciousness. Back at the office, his employees sighed in relief. It looked like they didn't have to worry about the company going bankrupt after all. A young man named Blue worked as a stripper. That night, after finishing his performance, he went to the back alley to rest. Just then, a pedal tavern carrying a group of bachelorette partiers rolled down the nearby street. The girls were laughing, singing, and drinking with excitement. Among them was Amy, a slightly chubby girl who began feeling sick. She groaned, "I shouldn't have eaten that hot chicken earlier." No one paid much attention and kept pedaling hard. Then Amy started coughing uncontrollably. The bride-to-be, Molly, asked in concern, "Are you okay?" When Amy didn't respond, everyone realized something was wrong and quickly stopped the cart. The driver got off to check Amy's condition.
I'm good. Oh my God!
But at that moment, the party resumed. The girls kept pedaling and the cart rolled downhill. They didn't notice one critical detail. The driver hadn't yet climbed back onto the vehicle. As a result, the pedal tavern went out of control and crashed into a car. The shocking scene was witnessed by Blue, the stripper from earlier.
Bachelorettes are bleeding all over Broadway!
At the crash site, the bride-to-be, Molly, was severely injured. Her leg was trapped beneath the cart, bleeding heavily. The situation was dire, but the rescue team hadn't arrived yet. Blue saw what was happening and said, "We need to stop the bleeding." He pulled out a bottle of oil that looked like lubricant and rubbed it directly onto Molly's leg. The girls asked what kind of oil it was. Blue replied, "It's stripper oil." Amy then shouted, "What kind of fireman are you?" Blue said nothing. He calmly helped Molly slide out from under the cart. To stop the bleeding, Blue removed his shirt, pulled out his belt, and tied it tightly around Molly's leg, creating a simple yet effective tourniquet. Just then, the fire department finally arrived and took over the rescue. Captain Don Hart was stunned by Blue's quick first aid response. At that moment, he realized Blue was actually his long-lost son. Later, Blue appeared at the fire station, where Don offered him a job as a cadet. Firehouse 51 received an emergency call they initially believed was a fire incident. Upon arrival, they discovered the situation was far more complex. The scene involved a burning truck and a gas station that had been affected. Eventually, the flaming truck came to a stop after a crash. When firefighters reached the gas station, they found a seriously injured woman. Upon examining her, they realized her condition was critical. A man stepped forward, explaining that he had been the one to call 911. He said he'd witnessed her being attacked by two men in a pickup truck. Meanwhile, the other firefighters worked to extinguish the truck fire. Paramedic Mikami rushed over to assess the driver's condition. Seeing the severely burned man, Mikami shook her head in disappointment and said, "I gotta tag this black and get to the other patient." Back at the gas station, Mikami frowned and mentioned there was only one person inside the burning vehicle. Severide instantly realized something wasn't right. It seemed one of the attackers had fled. Suddenly, he spotted a wounded man nearby. When the man saw Severide, he panicked and started to run. Severide lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. At that moment, the police finally arrived. Thanks to Severide's courage, the second attacker was handed over to law enforcement. Soon after, the firefighters received another call, this time about a house fire. But when they arrived, there were no visible signs of flames. The crew suspected it might just be kids playing around. However, Lieutenant Kidd didn't want to take any chances. He ordered the team to spread out and search the area. That's when paramedic Mikami spotted a staggering man emerging from the shadows. The man muttered, "He shot me," before collapsing from a gunshot wound. Suddenly, a black car sped toward them, and the men inside opened fire on the firefighters. They quickly shielded the wounded man, protecting him from the bullets. Fortunately, the car sped away and none of the firefighters were hurt. Mikami immediately began performing CPR on the victim. Crew members asked if anyone had seen the shooters. To everyone's surprise, the new firefighter, Vasquez, confidently described the car model and even the driver's appearance. This earned him newfound respect from the team. Novak cut open the man's t-shirt and pressed her finger firmly against the bullet wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. After applying a quick bandage, they rushed him into the ambulance. By that time, there was still no sign of the police. It was clear that in this understaffed and slow-to-respond Chicago, firefighters had to take on quasi-law enforcement duties, managing the scene, protecting victims, and maintaining order until the police finally arrived. Please give a like and subscribe to help our channel out. Thanks for watching.